Hello and welcome to WION's Global Leadership Series. We are in the Japanese capital of Tokyo. It's a bright, sunny Tuesday morning, and we have with us a very special guest, the former Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe, the longest-serving Prime Minister of this country, the architect of modern-day Japan's strategic posture, and the man who laid the foundation of the Quad as we know it right now. Mr. Abe, welcome to WION.
Yes, I've been looking forward to this production. I'm very happy to be on the show.
You resigned a couple of years back, sir, citing ill health. How are you doing now?
Well, as you have cited, from July of about 2 years ago, my health has deteriorated to some extent. However, after I have stepped down from the Prime Ministership, the medicine actually is quite effective when it comes to my illness, so my condition is very good now.
Barely a few kilometers from where we are sitting, the 4 Quad leaders are having the second in-person meeting, the second Quad summit. What are your expectations from the Tokyo meeting?
As you have heard, I have always been the advocate of this Quad collaboration, Japan, India, US and Australia. It's very useful for the 4 countries to unite together for the stability and the safety of the region. So in terms of my efforts for this Quad relationship, it really started back during the first Abe administration, starting in 2006. I've been trying to put together this kind of framework on the diplomacy front to tackle all the regional issues. This Indo-Pacific relationship had grown from the level of ministerial cooperation to the top leader cooperation. And furthermore, since 2012, we have been engaged in Asia Democratic Movement under the name of Security Diamond, and this certainly has contributed largely to the stability and prosperity of the region of this Indo-Pacific. So, in the backdrop, of course, we're seeing the Ukraine crisis. Russia is invading Ukraine, as you know, and given that backdrop, of course, there's a military consideration within the Indo-Pacific region as well. It's quite meaningful for the Quad leaders to get together in a summit forum to demonstrate the 4 democratic countries' strong stance for the stability and safety of the region.
You mentioned Ukraine, and while the Quad has achieved a lot and progressed a lot in the past few years with vaccine cooperation and climate change and so on and so forth, do you think the Quad has done enough to pursue its security goals?
Yeah, of course, as you cited, the scope of cooperation under the framework of Quad is quite various. We include, fighting COVID-19, acquiring vaccines, making sure people are vaccinated, and there is always this issue for the climate change that we need to tackle together. But at the same time, I think if you were to talk about the most recent issues that we shall take very importantly, it is Russia's invasion into Ukraine. I think we need to strongly. And that's not to say lightly of the need to secure economic stability vis-a-vis issues regarding supply chain and whatnot.
I come back to the question of security goals and the fact that the Quad partners have been reluctant to even name their biggest security challenge, which is China. The Quad has been accused of having an identity crisis. Some say it's the Asian Red Cross, others say it's the Asian NATO. Is the current format of the Quad what you envisioned in 2006 when you pushed for it?
Well, first of all, I need to clearly say that the purpose, the objectives of Quad is entirely different from that of NATO, for example, so our stance naturally will be different. This Quad collaboration is not to, say, name one country in crisis which needs defense. to support them as a result of that. Such is not what we do. At the same time, of course, Quad takes it important for the fact that we are the four democratic countries in Indo-Pacific region, and our values should be pronounced. And of course, for the four countries to work together to commit to the security of the region basically is the very foundation of peace and stability. By pronouncing our values as such, China will be directed to act in the right direction.
Today's newspapers in Japan, and I'm sure elsewhere as well, talk about US President Joe Biden reaffirming his commitment to defending Taiwan, only for the White House to immediately clarify that their policy on Taiwan remains unchanged. Do you believe that the US will militarily intervene if China were to invade Taiwan?
バイデン大統領は
Well, I think his comment was intentionally made, but you must forget the fact that he has in the past also made a similar comment that U.S. will be willing to fully defend Taiwan if China were to militarily invade Taiwan. So, that's on the very ground of staying strategically ambiguous in terms of policy. And on the very point that the White House came right out saying, oh, our policy of staying ambiguous strategically has not changed. The fact that they clarify that right after President Biden's comment actually gives us a signal that the U.S. is starting to look at the change of the policy there. And I have been an advocate of changing this ambiguous strategy. At the time when U.S. took this ambiguous strategy, there was a huge gap of military power between U.S. and China. But as we see China closing that gap very rapidly with a very strong military power that they're building up, it's dangerous to keep this policy in place. So I would, in consequence, welcome President Biden's comment. His comment flatly would signal a change of that ambiguous strategy policy when it comes to China-Taiwan relationship.
この戦略を維持することは危険だというふうに私は思います。
So let me understand this correctly. You're saying that with yesterday's statement, no matter what the White House has said in clarification, you believe that there is a shift in American policy vis-a-vis Taiwan?
中国に対してのメッセージなんですが、
this is actually a comment given directly from President Biden, and he talked about U.S.'s full commitment to defend Taiwan, even though the White House came out and denied, any overreaction to that, saying that it's the same policy. But I think essentially what President Biden had said shows the truth, and it was a message to China.
Very interesting. Do you believe that Xi Jinping is going to attack Taiwan and take it by force?
Of course, Xi Jinping's policy of one China is out and clear, as it had been stated. And they have clearly shown that forceful action by force is one of the options that they might actually exercise. But if U.S. were to clearly be in a position to interfere with such action of military invasion by China, I think China would consequently have to give up the idea, because China certainly doesn't want to go into war with U.S.
So what do you think the Chinese military is trying to do as they surround Taiwan, as they, satellite images have come out of them taking out certain targets? Do you think this is a pressure tactic? Do you think that the Chinese president is preparing to mount some sort of an invasion while the world remains distracted with Ukraine, with supply chain disruptions, with economic pressures?
中国にとってベストなのはですね。
Well, what would be best scenario for China's perspective, of course, is for Taiwan to voluntarily become part of China, but such is not likely to occur. There are a couple of stories I can think of when it comes to how China would make happen one China story. For example, China could be on the very forefront of trying to have an influence over Taiwan as it makes Taiwan's situation unstable when it comes to political activities or economic activities. However, on that very point, I must not forget to mention that the current administration in Taiwan is a popular administration. There is quite a bit of stability when it comes to politics and economy. But, you know, things might happen, and when that change comes, that would be a window of opportunity, I think, from the perspective of China. There is a great deal of influence over Taiwan from China, of course, as you know, economically and also in terms of media control.
When you say things might happen, are you suggesting that China might engineer political instability in Taiwan, and that would be the route that they would prefer?
様々な可能性があると思います。
There are various possibilities. The fact that China and Taiwan speak the same language, economically they are relying on each other. There's quite a bit of going back and forth between the two countries that gives us, you know, a lot of touch points where things could possibly change. And the situation is different from the Ukraine situation.
What would a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, if it happens, mean for your country? Do you believe that American security guarantees are enough for Japan? Do you need an independent defense policy?
Well, being that geographically Taiwan is very close to Japan, we're only 110 kilometers apart. So if there is a war that outbreaks in Taiwan, of course, that is going to be an emergency situation for Japan and Japan alliance, naming Japan-US.
You suggested that Japan should host U.S. nuclear missiles. Is that a suggestion that you still stand by?
先ほどの質問に対する
Of course, when it comes to Japan's own defense, you know, we should be enhancing our own defense, but at the same time, I think that there's a strong alliance between the U.S. and Japan when it comes to national security of Japan, specifically with regard to the nuclear deterrence power that the U.S. holds. Of course, we need to make sure that the system is refined over time, it's updated, but the nuclear deterrence in itself is a firm thing, it's a sure thing, and I think it secures Japan's safety.
Let's talk about your relationship with India and Prime Minister Modi. How do you describe it?
Of course, we had to stop diplomatic visits during the COVID pandemic for 2 years, but you can see the historical visits that we've made back and forth. Of course, you know, I was very energetic when it comes to strengthening the bilateral relationship during my second administration, but I would go back as far as my first administration, where I visited India and I gave a parliamentary speech, and I talked about the two seas being united. This became really the concept that led to the Quad and economic collaborations thus after that we have elaborated on. I have always been saying that this bilateral relationship between Japan and India is the type of bilateral relationship that has the biggest potential of all. And we're actually starting to see all the fruit of the relationship. So I'm actually going to step up as the president of Japan, or Japan-Indo Association, taking the position of formerly served by Yoshio Mori. It has a history of 120 years. It's actually longer than US-Japan, Japan-US Association.
You've also had a long association with Mr. Modi in particular, and you've known him since the time that he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Can you tell us about your engagements and interactions with him? And I ask this because when two leaders meet, there's a lot of talk about personal chemistry. How much does personal chemistry, how big a role does it play in international diplomacy?
We've spent quite a bit of time, talking, doing other matters around our diplomatic activities. So relationship goes deep. Our understanding towards national security, the world issues that we need to all collaborate, solve together, are very much, united. And I respect Prime Minister Modi for the fact that he's a quick decision maker. He has that power to make things happen.
I can't have an interview with you without asking about North Korea. That remains another security challenge for Japan. And I know that in your tenure, you vowed to sort of restore diplomatic ties, even sought a bilateral meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. That did not happen. How do you assess the situation now? And what do you think he's trying to do with all of these missile tests and the threat of possibly a nuclear test during Biden's Asia tour?
Of course, when it comes to North Korea, in addition to the very important issue of what we shall do with the nuclear weapon that they hold, Japan has this abduction issue that we have been long trying to solve. It's important for world countries to unite together in dissuading North Korea to take policies and positions suitable to the world.
And what next for you? Do you see yourself in the Prime Minister's role again? Or
No.
I'm not thinking that as of now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.